Welcome to the Vox Herald podcast, where we dive deep into the stories shaping our world, with a commitment to bringing you diverse perspectives and fostering meaningful dialogue. I'm your host, Nguyen, and today we're exploring two interconnected stories from Prince Edward Island that touch on the heart of Canadian agriculture and the food industry. First, we'll unpack how P.E.I. farmers bucked a national trend in 2024, seeing a rise in farm incomes despite challenges like rising costs and tight margins. Then, we'll dive into a national campaign by Restaurants Canada to remove taxes on prepared food, a move that could reshape how Canadians access and afford their meals. These stories matter because they highlight the resilience and struggles of those who feed us, while sparking a broader conversation about fairness, affordability, and the future of food in Canada. Let's get started with our 7-step approach to understanding these issues. The P.E.I. farm income increase and the Restaurants Canada campaign are deeply rooted in economic dynamics. Agriculture is a cornerstone of P.E.I.'s economy, with its potato sector, dairy processing, and beef industry driving local prosperity. The rise in farm incomes to $105.9 million in 2024, as reported by Statistics Canada, reflects a robust sector, but rising operating expenses, up 3.4% to $647.8 million, highlight the financial pressures farmers face. Similarly, the push to remove GST and HST on prepared food is a business issue, as restaurants grapple with razor-thin margins and post-COVID recovery challenges. In P.E.I., a temporary tax break last winter boosted restaurant revenues by over 15%, showing the economic ripple effects of policy changes. Food is central to Canadian life, from farm-fresh produce to restaurant meals. The success of farmers like Salile Hutchinson, who saw a strong demand for her mixed vegetable farm's produce, reflects how local food systems shape community diets and preferences. Meanwhile, Restaurants Canada's campaign taps into lifestyle shifts, noting that prepared food is no longer a luxury, but a necessity for busy Canadians. This resonates in P.E.I., where local restaurants like Tabali Grills saw a surge in customers during the tax break, underscoring food's role in daily life. Both stories intersect with policy. The P.E.I. Federation of Agriculture's call for better data collection and support for farmers ties to provincial and federal agricultural policies. The new Grocery Code of Conduct, effective in 2025, aims to level the playing field for farmers and suppliers, a political response to systemic issues. Restaurants Canada's push for tax exemptions involves federal tax policy, engaging the Canada Revenue Agency, and sparking debate about fairness in taxation. These policy angles invite diverse viewpoints on government's role in supporting food systems. The P.E.I. Federation of Agriculture's emphasis on data collection and analysis introduces a scientific angle. By advocating for profit and loss maps at a subfield level, the Federation highlights how data-driven, agriculture rooted in disciplines like agronomy and data science can boost profitability. This aligns with broader Canadian efforts to modernize farming through technology and research. Prince Edward Island's agriculture sector is a powerhouse despite its small size. Known for its potato industry, which accounts for about 25% of Canada's potato production, P.E.I. also supports dairy, beef, and mixed vegetable farms. Statistics Canada's 2024 data shows P.E.I.'s realized net farm income rose 1.7% to $105.9 million, defying a national decline of 25% to $9.4 billion. This resilience stems from favorable weather in 2024, a warm spring, and storm-free summer boosting yields for farmers like Salile Hutchinson. However, rising costs for fertilizer, fuel, and other inputs, which increased operating expenses by 3.4%, pose ongoing challenges. Several factors drove P.E.I.'s income hike. First, the province's investment in agriculture, Including infrastructure like Atlantic Beef Products and Atlantic Dairy Processing creates a stable base. Second, strong local demand for farm products, as seen at Soleil's farm, reflects consumer preference for island-grown food. Third, P.E.I.'s smaller scale may insulate it from national trends, as Donald Killern of the P.E.I. Federation of Agriculture noted. However, the national decline in farm income, the largest since 2018, stems from global supply chain disruptions, high input costs, and volatile commodity prices, which P.E.I. partially avoided. The income hike benefits P.E.I. farmers, supporting rural economies and jobs. For example, a successful season at Soleil's farm means more revenue for local suppliers and retailers. However, tight profit margins and rising costs fertilizer prices rose 15 to 20% globally in 2024. Per USDA, reports threaten long-term sustainability. The Grocery Code of Conduct, effective in 2025, aims to ease pressures by ensuring fair dealings with retailers, but its impact is untested. Farmers also face risks from unpredictable weather and global trade uncertainties, as Hutchinson highlighted. Key players include P.E.I. farmers, the P.E.I. Federation of Agriculture, consumers, retailers, and policymakers. Farmers like Hutchinson represent the grassroots, while the Federation advocates for systemic support. Consumers drive demand, while retailers and restaurants rely on farm produce. Provincial and federal governments shape policies like the Grocery Code and agricultural funding. Academic institutions, like the University of Prince Edward Island, are stakeholders in advancing data-driven farming. Restaurants Canada, representing over 30,000 food service businesses, launched a campaign in 2025 to permanently remove GST and HST from prepared food, following a temporary tax break in January-February 2024. The break led to a 15% revenue increase and have bankruptcies in P.E.I.'s restaurant sector, per Janet Cormier. With 84% of Canadians supporting tax-free food, the campaign argues that prepared food is an essential, not a luxury, amid rising living costs. The campaign responds to economic pressures on restaurants, including a 23% rise in bankruptcies in 2024 due to post-COVID recovery challenges and inflation-driven cost increases. Ingredient costs rose 10 to 15% in 2024, per Statistics Canada, squeezing margins. The temporary tax break showed that tax relief boosts consumer spending, as seen at Tabali Grills in Charlottetown. Broader societal shifts busy lifestyles, making prepared food a staple fuel the argument for tax exemptions. Removing taxes could save Canadians $5.4 billion annually and create 64,000 jobs per Restaurants Canada. In P.E.I., it would ease financial strain on restaurants and consumers, encouraging dining out and supporting local economies. However, federal revenue losses could strain public services, sparking debate about fiscal priorities. Small businesses like Tabali Grills would benefit from reduced administrative burdens, but larger chains might gain disproportionately, raising equity concerns. Restaurants Canada, restaurant owners like Rania Farouk Ismail, consumers, and the federal government are key players. Local restaurants drive community economies, while consumers seek affordable food options. The Canada Revenue Agency and federal policymakers face pressure to balance tax relief with fiscal responsibility. Public support, evidenced by over 1,000 petition signatures in a day, underscores the campaign's resonance. The Grocery Code of Conduct, implemented in 2025, is a new policy aimed at fair dealings between farmers, suppliers, and retailers. It responds to long-standing concerns about retailer power, as outlined in the 2023 Competition Bureau report on grocery pricing. P.E.I.'s agricultural investments, like subsidies for potato farmers, align with federal programs under the Canadian Agricultural Partnership, which supports innovation and sustainability. However, rising input costs highlight gaps in these frameworks, as subsidies haven't fully offset inflation. The Federation's push for data-driven farming lacks a direct policy link, but aligns with federal precision agriculture initiatives, like Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada's 2024 tech grants. The campaign targets GST and HST, governed by the Excise Tax Act. The temporary tax break in 2024 was a pilot under federal budget measures to stimulate post-COVID recovery, as noted in the 2024 budget. A permanent exemption would require amending the Act, a complex process given GST's role in federal revenue. The campaign aligns with past advocacy for food tax relief, like the 2016 push to exempt basic groceries, but faces resistance due to fiscal impacts. No direct conflict exists, but the proposal challenges Canada's tax structure, which prioritizes broad-based revenue. Those favoring economic freedom. This group likely supports the Restaurants Canada campaign, seeing tax exemptions as a way to boost business and consumer spending. They'd argue that reducing GST/HST stimulates local economies, as seen in P.E.I.'s 15% restaurant revenue spike. For farmers, they'd emphasize market-driven solutions, like data analytics, over government subsidies, viewing P.E.I.'s income hike as proof of a strong free market sector. However, they might caution against over-regulating via the grocery code, fearing it could burden retailers. Those prioritizing social equity. This perspective focuses on affordability and fairness. They'd champion tax exemptions on prepared food as a way to ease costs for low-income Canadians, citing the 84% public support. For farmers, they'd advocate for more support, like Hutchinson's basic income idea, to protect against risks like weather or trade volatility. They'd see the grocery code as a step toward equity, but push for stronger enforcement to protect small farmers from corporate retailers. Those focused on environmental sustainability. This group might view P.E.I.'s farm success with caution, noting that favorable weather isn't guaranteed and climate change threatens yields. They'd support data-driven farming for efficiency, but urge sustainable practices, like reducing fertilizer use, which spiked costs in 2024. On the tax issue, they'd weigh the environmental impact of increased restaurant activity against economic benefits, advocating for green incentives alongside tax relief. These perspectives converge on supporting local economies, but diverge on methods market solutions, equity-focused policies, or sustainability-driven approaches, reflecting Canada's diverse political landscape. Those starting their careers. This group, often juggling tight budgets, likely welcomes the tax exemption campaign, as it makes dining out or grabbing takeout more affordable. P.E.I.'s farm income rise might not directly affect them, but those in rural areas may appreciate local job opportunities from a strong agricultural sector. However, they may worry about rising food costs if farm expenses continue to climb. Those with fixed incomes. This group prioritizes affordability and stability. They'd strongly support tax-free prepared food as it stretches their budgets, especially after the 2024 tax breaks benefits. For farmers, they'd empathize with Hutchinson's call for financial safety nets, seeing parallels with their own need for economic security. They might fear that rising farm costs could lead to higher grocery prices. Those in the food industry. Restaurant owners like Ismail and farmers like Hutchinson are directly impacted. They celebrate P.E.I.'s farm income rise, but feel the pinch of tight margins and rising costs. The tax exemption campaign is a lifeline for restaurateurs, reducing financial and administrative burdens. They'd also support the Federation's data-driven approach, seeing it as a path to profitability. Those in rural communities. This group relies on agriculture for jobs and local food. P.E.I.'s income hike boosts community pride and economic stability, but they're wary of risks like weather or trade disruptions. They'd support tax exemptions if it means more local restaurant business, but they might prioritize farm support to ensure long-term food security. These perspectives reflect Canada's diverse social fabric, From urban diners to rural farmers, highlighting shared concerns about affordability and resilience. These stories P.E.I.'s farm income success and the push for tax-free, prepared food invite us to think deeply about how we support the people who feed us. Farmers and restaurateurs are the backbone of our communities, yet they face immense pressures from rising costs, unpredictable risks, and tight margins. As listeners, you have the power to shape this conversation. Start by researching the grocery code of conduct, check out government websites or industry reports to understand its impact on farmers. Engage with local restaurants. Ask owners how policies like tax exemptions affect them. Share your thoughts on platforms like X, using hashtags like #FoodIsFood or #SupportFarmers to join the national dialogue. Attend community forums or farmers markets to hear directly from producers. Most importantly, reflect on what fairness and affordability mean to you, whether it's a tax break on your next meal or a policy to protect farmers. Your voice matters. Let's keep this conversation going, fostering a Canada where food systems thrive for everyone. Today, we've explored how P.E.I. farmers defied a national downturn, achieving a 1.7% income rise in 2024, while facing challenges like rising costs and tight margins. We've also delved into Restaurants Canada's campaign to remove taxes on prepared food, a move that could save billions and create jobs, but sparks debate about fiscal impacts. From economic resilience to policy innovation, these stories highlight the complexities of Canada's food system. At Vox Herald, we're committed to bringing you diverse perspectives and sparking dialogue, and we hope you'll join us in reflecting on how we can support farmers, restaurateurs, and consumers. Tune in next time for more stories that matter, and let's keep questioning, learning, and engaging together.